I think we should start in next 3 minutes at 3:05. I think let's start the webinar.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us in today's webinar on DPDP Act Decoded, the CMO's playbook in the privacy first era. I am Rupal Seni from Redefine, and I will be taking you through a few quick guidelines before we begin. Please keep yourself muted throughout the webinar to avoid any disturbances. If you have any questions, kindly drop them in the chat box. Our experts will address them during the Q&A session at the end. We will also have poll questions during the session, and we encourage you to participate actively. After the webinar, you will receive a feedback survey on your registered email ID. We would really appreciate if you could take a moment to share your thoughts. Your feedback would help us improve. Now, without a further ado, I would like to warmly welcome Mr. Sandeepan Ray, our Director Redefine, who will be our host and moderator for today's session.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today. On behalf of Redefine and CXNet, I extend a very warm welcome to all of you for joining this webinar. DPDP Act, or the Digital Personal Data Protection Act, is very critical, and it's a very important subject which is going to shape our businesses, how we data. Globally, there are acts are already in place, and India, it's expected to come on place very soon. Just for those who are not aware of Redefine, we are an integrated marketing services organization, and we do engage with our clients for a lot of data-driven campaign. We use data for various marketing campaign. We do email campaigns, direct campaigns. We understand how the importance of managing a user database. We understand the responsibility which comes on us on managing and using a database of or data of different customers. That is the reason we thought let's have a webinar where we can understand the implication of DPTP and the compliances which goes along with it. Today's session is basically designed how a marketing team or the CMO should use its campaign and abide by the compliance. So for this, and to understand this act, we have two esteemed speakers. Advocate Ajay Kumar, partner of Lit Legal. He brings a deep legal insights into data protection laws and what businesses need to know to stay compliant. Welcome, Mr. Ajay. And I have Mr. Mridul Srivastav, CEO of Marketing Works, the formerly global head of marketing at British Telecom, is also an advisor of CXNet, and he will walk us through the marketing and operational impact of DPDP Act. In fact, Mridul was initially part of the drafting committee that has worked towards the DPDP Act. So he will bring a very, very close, he has been working very closely on this particular act, so he will bring a lot of information about it. So with that, let's start and explore how we can collectively build a secure, transparent, and a future-ready business environment. And to start with, I will ask Mr. Ajay, I request Mr. Ajay Kumar to share his thoughts and his presentation.
Very good afternoon to everyone. As Sandeepan has briefly described about my role, I am a partner in Lit Legal, and I was very happy to uh, coordinate with Redefine for this important webinar. So I would like to share my PPT with you. Give me a minute. Is my screen visible, Sandeepan?
Yes.
So before starting, let us learn what actually digital personal data and what's the need to process it. We will be covering in this presentation what is digital personal data and how it is processed. What does this act mention? Need for such an act, roles of data principal, data fiduciary, and consent management. And there have to be certain compliance checks and the penalties which are provided under the DPDP Act. So, what is digital personal data? In simple words, digital personal data means personal data in digital form. For to be qualified it as a personal digital personal data, it has to relate to an identified individual. Then it has to exist in a digital form, either originally collected or digitally or later digitized. Very basic examples of the digital personal data are the name of the individual, address, phone number, then biometric data stored digitally, scanned copies of documents, email IDs, IP addresses, devices IDs, etc. Digital data is very important nowadays. Why the digital data is giving more importance is because it helps in each and every industrial setup. For example, in service personalization, it enables targeted ads, content recommendation, and specific experiences. Then, if, to efficient governance, it helps in delivering welfare schemes, subsidies, e-governance, etc. Let us understand this with an example. So, if the government has a data of people living in an area or a community, then they can easily, they can prepare or strategize the schemes for the individuals depending upon the number of people living in that area, and they can actually cater to the need which can be covered by the schemes. In the healthcare and education industry, it improves access to digital medical records, learning platforms, etc. For business analytics, it helps companies understand customer behavior and improve services. For example, if a company has a data of certain number of people who acts in a different manner on the specified or given product, then the companies can actually understand what improvement they need to make in the product. Secondly, they can also, they can also make a strategy in how much time they need to relaunch the product and what is the need of the hour. They can amend the product and they can withdraw the product and they can launch a new product in the market depending upon the study of the people they have, the data of the consumer they have. Then in the area of digital security, it verifies, identify for secure access to online platforms. So why it is important? Processing of digital personal data. It includes operations such as collection, recording, organization, structuring, storage, adaptation, retrieval, and use of the digital data. These are the main areas which comprises of processing of digital data, personal digital data. So what does this act mention? So the Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023, commonly known as DPDP Act, is India's first comprehensive act aimed at safeguarding individuals' digital personal data. It was enacted in August 2023. It establishes a legal framework for the processing of personal data within India and by organizations outside India that offers goods and services to the Indian consumers. It establishes a framework for how personal data can be collected, processed, and used while empowering individuals with greater control over their data. So the question comes in mind: what is why the need of this act was raised? So in 2017, the Supreme Court of India, in a landmark judgment, held that the right to privacy is a fundamental right under the Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. So this important decision, which is indicated on my screen, highlighted the necessity for a legal framework to protect personal data and privacy in the digital age. Aadhaar. So how this case came? So Aadhaar was introduced as a card from which a person can be identified. It was issued as a unique identity, and authority who issues the card and enrolls a person in is known as Unique Identification Authority of India, that is UIDI. It was challenged on the ground that it violates fundamental rights of the innumerable citizens of India, namely right to privacy, falling under Article 21 of the Constitution of India. The main issues which emerged from this case was whether the Aadhaar violates the right to privacy and is unconstitutional on this ground. What is magnitude of protection that needs to be accorded to collection, storage, and usage of biometric data? Whether the Aadhaar project creates or tends to create surveillance state and is unconstitutional on this ground. The Supreme Court held that the right of privacy is fundamental, right? It is a right which protects the inner sphere of the individual from interferences from both state and non-state actors and allows the individuals to make autonomous life choices. The privacy has always been a natural right which gives an individual freedom to exercise control over his or her personality. The Aadhaar Act creates a database of Indian residents and citizens with their core biometric information, demographic information, and metadata. Such information can affect every aspect of an individual's personal, professional, religious, and social life. Such power is fed to individual freedom. So imagine a situation where all the data of people living in Delhi is with the organization, and they have access to that data, and they can use that data in certain manner that can be used for the betterment of the people, and also that can be misused. So to address the absence of comprehensive protection legislation prior to DPDP Act, there was no act in place which could cater the importance of right to privacy. So prior to DPDP Act, India's data protection system was primarily governed by the Information Technology Act 2000. The DPDP Act fills the legislative gap by establishing a structured framework. With the advancement, DPDP Act fills the legislative gap by establishing a structured framework for the processing of digital personal data, thereby enhancing the privacy and security. The IT Act and its associated rules were inadequate at that time to address the complexities of the modern data processing activities. So, in India, there was no such act, but in other part of the world, the act were prevailing. So, one such act which is in place is GDPR, that is General Data Protection Regulation. It is with the European Union. So, with the advancement of digital services and cross-border data flows, there was an urgent need for India to align its data protection standards with the global norms. So key roles in the data protection ecosystem. So the ecosystem is there, but there are a few important actors or role which have to play. So the first and foremost is data principal. So data principal is a person whose data is being used. Let's say the name, the address, the email, the biometrics is of like, for example, I am a data principal. My name, my address, my biometrics are my personal digital data. So to the data principal is the individual to whom the personal data relates. It refers to a natural person, not a company or organization. It has to be a natural person, a company, an entity, a trust, or a company or a partnership cannot be a data principal. It has to be an individual only, a living person. Now the question comes, can a person below 18 years, this data can be used? So for minors under 18 years or individuals with disabilities, their parents or lawful guardians act as a data principal. So data principal have certain rights, which right to give or withdraw consent at any time. So a data principal, it is the sole discretionary of a data principal to give his or her consent to the company, to the data fiduciary, to use the data in certain manner for this specified period or for a specified purpose only. So the another right is right to know how the data is used, right to request correction or deletion of inaccurate or unnecessary data. For example, if some error has crept in my data, or my name has been misspelled, or some incorrect information has been fed in, so I will inform the data fiduciary, which I will discuss in subsequent slide, to delete my data, to amend my data, and to use it for a specific period. So the another right is right to file complaints with the data fiduciary or escalate to the data protection board. For example, if my data has been misused, then I have right to complain to the data fiduciary, saying that look, my data has been misused or my data has been passed to some unknown or unauthorized person. that should be stopped, then I have that right, and I can stop that immediately, and I can ask them to delete it or stop sharing it to the other people. So the last is nomination. I can nominate, a data principal can nominate another person to exercise their rights in the event of death or incapacity. So the next is data fiduciary. So data fiduciary is any person, company, firm, state, body or organization that determines purpose and means of the processing personal data. So in data principle, a company cannot be a data principal. But in this case, data fiduciary can be a person, can be a company, can be a firm, can be a state body, because they processes the data. So the data fiduciary have certain responsibilities. So they have to obtain valid and informed consent. It means that the consent obtained by the data principal has to be very specific. He should know that he is giving a consent. It is the case that it should not be obtained by misguiding him or by trick. Then the next responsibility is to process the data only for lawful and unnecessary purposes. Sorry, for necessary purposes. My bad. Ensure, then the next is ensure data accuracy, security, and privacy. The next is facilitate all rights of the data principal. Notify the data protection board and affected individuals in case of data breach. In case of a data breach of the data by third party, it is the foremost duty of the data fiduciary to inform to the data protection board and the individuals in case of data breach. So there is another role that is called significant data fiduciary SDF. Some data fiduciary are designated as significant based on volume, sensitivity of data processed, risk of harm to data principals, use of advanced technologies. Example, AI profiling. SDF must appoint a data protection officer, DPO. It should conduct data protection impact assessment on regular basis. They should conduct assessments of the data, and they should undergo periodic data audits to keep a check that the data is being used in a smooth manner and for lawful purposes. Then there comes the consent manager. It plays a very important role in this whole act. A consent manager is a regulated intermediary that helps data principal manage their consent for processing of personal data. So the data manager can be in the organization itself, or it can be a third person also. Key roles of the consent manager are: we act on behalf of the data principal, helps give, manage, review or withdraw consent, must be registered with the Data Protection Board of India, must provide a user-friendly interface for consent management. The key functions of the consent manager are: provide dashboard for individuals to review, manage where and how the data is being used. So in all the activities, the data principal is to be focused. So he should be aware as to where his data is being used or processed. The next function is that that the consent manager ensures all actions are logged transparently. It also helps prevent unauthorized excessive data processing. So in front of our screen, there is a table which briefly provides the role of each of them: data principal, data fiduciary, consent manager. As I have discussed, I will not discuss it further. So here is a real life example of the of key roles involving in the Data Protection Act. So data principal, a person signing up for an e-wallet. Data fiduciary, the e-wallet company that collects and uses the personal data. Consent manager, a platform where the person can view and control what the data, the e-wallet apps and others is using. interaction of these three keys roles in data production ecosystem is very important. So with the help of this flow chart, I have summarized the key roles. So data principal gives withdraw consent. Consent manager shares consent status. Data fiduciary processes as per consent. So data fiduciary has to process the data as per the consent. It cannot go beyond the consent. So the data fiduciary then reports data use, breach notifications. If the data is breached, then he has to inform to the data principal and the board. Then the consent manager keeps all activity transparent and it's under his control. So compliance is checked. How to take certain steps so that the provisions of the DPDP Act are not contravened. So compliance checks are processes, evaluate whether organization, that is data fiduciaries, are meeting their legal obligations under the DPDP Act. These may be routine, random, or triggered by a complaint or data breach. It means that the data fiduciary can do the routine check themselves, or they can initiate the checks when someone complains to them. So the data fiduciary helps proper data collect and usage practices, protection of individual rights, security and privacy of personal data. So the important question is who conducts these checks. So the Data Protection Board of India, DPBI, is the regulatory authority responsible for conducting investigations, enforcing compliance, and imposing penalties. So it is one of the important role of the DPBI is to impose penalties on the defaulters. So in the couple of next slides, we will be discussing on the penalties also. So significant data fiduciary act SPFs must also carry out internal audits and impact assessments. So here is a chart which provides the key compliance areas checked under the DPDP Act. So as I am running short of time, so I will not go deep into it. I will share my PPT so that you all can have you can go through and get access to. So tools used in compliance checks. So audit reports, consent logs and records, data flows maps, risk assessments, privacy impact assessments, security certifications. If these all tools are kept in mind by the organizations, then I'm sure that there would be no incident of contravention of the act. Everything will be smooth. So the right of the data principal will not be affected. The data fiduciary will act in a legal and effective manner, and there would be no penalties on the organizations. Is screen visible, Sandeepan?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
I think you make it full screen and then we can go. And I think we are running short of time, so maybe another 5 minutes we can just wind up.
Is it okay now?
Not really. But you can let's carry on because we just have to, we have less time. So let's move.
I'll wrap up in 5 minutes. So I think now it is okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So till now, I have a question for the attendees. Do you consider that DPDP Act to be useful? So you can give your poll and you can share it with the people. So I'll be moving on. So the there are certain penalties, and I would say that penalties or provision relating to punishments are key role in the law, because they act as a deterrent for the defaulters, so that they act in a legal manner. So there are hefty penalties which are provided in the act. So breach of data security obligations applies when a data fiduciary fails to take reasonable security safeguards, resulting in a personal data breach. So the penalty can be up to rupees 250 crore. And then if the organization fails to report a data breach to the data protection board and affected individual in a timely manner, then a penalty of up to rupees 200 crore can be imposed. And so it means that the organization has to immediately inform the data principal as well as the data protection board. So the third penalty, which is attracted when non-fulfillment of duties by significant data fiduciary, that is SDFs. So SDFs who fail to appoint a data protection officer, conduct audits, or perform impact assessments as required, a penalty up to rupees 150 crore can be imposed on them. So there are three other penalties. So if there is a violation of children's data protection rule, if a data fiduciary processes children's data without proper consent or uses it for tracking, profiling, or targeted advertising, a penalty up to rupees 200 crores can be imposed. Then if an organization does not comply with the data principal rights, then a penalty up to rupees 50 crore can be imposed. The last is failure to provide notice. If an organization doesn't give a proper notice about how personal data will be used at the time of collection, then a penalty up to rupees 55 crore can be imposed on an organization by the board. So this would be the last slide. So while considering the penalties, the board considers several factors before deciding the penalty amount: the nature and gravity of the violation, how grievous the violation is, then duration and consequences of non-compliance, whether the breach was intentional or negligent, repetitiveness of the violation, measures taken to reduce harm, degree of cooperation with the board. So there's a question or a poll on your screen. Does the provided heavy penalty in DPDP Act will act as a deterrent? So everyone is requested to provide their answers to the Drupal. With this slide, I would like to thank everyone. So now I would like to hand over to the to Sandeepan, that it can be.
Thanks, Ajay. Thank you very much. I think it is really helpful for get to know. Little worried that the cost, the penalties are very, very high. So I think for businesses who are using database, customer database and personal database, their data, they need to be really vigilant and how they need to use it. So with that, thank you, Ajay, for sharing all that. I will now like to invite Mridul. I think we have a lot of people from the marketing field, and this session or this presentation of Mridul will definitely be very, very interesting for them to understand how actually the DPDP Act can be used to the betterment and to do marketing in a much better way, and how it's going to affect us. So over to you, Mridul.
Thank you. Can you see my screen, everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Great. So good afternoon, and thank you for joining the session. This is not just another compliance session, but this is something which is going to define the future of marketing in India. And not just future of marketing in India, but future of all those people who are present here and are marketing experts, because this is going to define how marketing is going to change. Especially today, we'll talk about B2B, right? So DPDP Act is basically a disruptor which has joined on your laps, right? And is going to redefine the way the marketing is going to happen. So all your databases, your funnels, your lists on Excel sheets, they're gone. So they are no longer going to be used once the act gets into promulgation, right? So that's the challenge. What you see on your screen is a couple of big names, and I'm sure all of you know most of these names. Probably some of them don't know Enel. Enel is one of the biggest Italian companies into energy area. Clearview is another company who's into AI, into face recognition. But what is common between them? There's one thing which is common between them, and what is common is that they all have been fined heavily by GDPR, which is similar to DPDP Act in Europe, right? Which Ajay talked about. Meta has been a habitual offender, and in 2023 they were fined 1.2 billion euros. That's a huge number. Clearview AI, they just took everybody's face from social media, from wherever possible, and they used that to build their own databases. And Clearview was fined something like 20 million euros. Amazon was fined 740 million, huge numbers. So what we are going to talk about, the 250 crore which Ajay talked, or 50 crore that Ajay talked, is a reality. It's not going to go away, right? This is happening, and this will happen in India. So, but why should CMOs? Why should you care? Yeah, let it be done by the legal guys. We have good legal teams in the company. They should manage it. No, the fact is, marketing is ground zero for data. So you are the guys who are capturing data, who are sharing data, who are reaching out to customers. Therefore, you are now the data fiduciaries. And Ajay explained about data fiduciaries, right? So you are the guys who are going to be responsible for seeking consent. You're guys who are going to be responsible for keeping data, using the data for the campaigns. And therefore, it becomes very, very important for CMOs and the marketing guys sitting in this webinar to really understand that the responsibility is very, very high. And you have to move from being just a CMO to the chief trust officer, because you have to gain the trust of your customer, because you're handling his personal data against which he can go to the courts immediately. Paul, very quickly, what percentage of your marketing data today comes from sources that would not be considered non-compliant? So you just heard about some of those sources. So where does your data come from which is non-compliant? How much of you, I mean, just tell me, what percentage of your data is coming from Excel sheets? Good. I can see the result. Okay. So close to 65 or 70% respondents feel that more than 50% of their data is coming from non-compliant sources, and that is a fact. That's really a fact. I'm not pointing any fingers. Just think about yourself, how you are using the data, right? And that is going to be define the things. So what DPDP bans or what DPDP restricts? Let's talk very specific, right? So it's no phishing. That's why it's there. You have purchased databases, email IDs, phone numbers. Don't answer me yes or no. Just answer to yourself. It's all restricted. You have done a WhatsApp SMS blast without the consent. You know, all those which you see from various builders and various email various marketing companies. Yes, this is all not possible. Retargeting users, those who are doing digital campaigns on LinkedIn or on Meta, they are using retargeting. You can't do that till the person opts again. Campaigns without opt-out mechanism. So every campaign should have an opt-out mechanism. Are you doing it? Ask yourself. If not, then you're wrong. Pixel tracking. I'll talk about pixel tracking again. Pixel tracking is a crime. It's going to be a crime. I'm going to talk about it in just a minute. Hold on. There's a very interesting thing I'm going to share with you. Okay. So what are the new rules of engagement? So the new rules of engagement is, please do not drop your cigarette butts on the ground. The fish crawls out at night and smoke them. We are trying to get them to quit. Sorry, that was a joke, just to wake you up in case you are right. In case you're asleep. But that's not the rules of the engagement. The rules of the engagement are that your old playbook is illegal. It will not work. And from the earlier marketing methodology of spray and pray, you have to move to consent and context. Now, what is that? Let me tell you very quickly. No, I have less time now, so I'll not walk through all the slides. We'll talk about the high level piece. Yeah. So what is a spray and pray today? What do? You have database of 1,000 people. You put them into an Excel sheet, send them into an email engine, and blast them across. Okay, so I have to invite 100 people. Let me send it to 1,000. I hope 100 will join. Okay, I have done email. Let me also put something on social. Let me also send them WhatsApp. Something will happen. So you are spraying like, everything possible. You're doing this like a machine gun, right? And you are praying, oh, someone will join, someone will click, someone will register. That's spray and pray. Now that's going to be stopping. Yeah. You need to have the consent and you need to have the context before you can reach out to him. So when DPDP is on, we will send you a message. I seek your consent, record it in our records, and then send you an email asking you to register. Yeah. No more pre-ticked boxes. That's a very, very common things which everybody does. Every B2B company is doing it. You have I got a message today from Airtel, pre-ticked box, right? It says your OTT subscription has been renewed. I don't even use it. I use somebody else's OTT thing, right? And they've said it has been renewed. That's an automatic. I have not done it. It's all wrong. Yeah. So there are a lot of things which are going to be different. Retargeting is gone. You can't scrape data. LinkedIn scraping tools, all gone, right? LinkedIn, please remember, there is a big lawsuit against LinkedIn in California, where somebody was scraping data to predict which the CEO will leave his job next. And the prediction was very right. They reached the California courts and the guy won the award. But when the California Consumer Protection Act came in, and meanwhile, LinkedIn was acquired by Microsoft, Microsoft went to the courts again and they won. So you cannot scrap LinkedIn data, something which you have been doing. Please stop it once the act comes into play. Yeah. So what are the challenges? The biggest challenge, your CRM cannot track consent. Can they? Give me an answer. Not now, but keep it to yourself. Maybe you can answer them. Can they? No, they are not. Your agencies, you don't know whether they are compliant or not. Whose data they are using, how many emails they are sending, are they using opt-in, opt-out on their emails? You don't know them. Your data brokers, so people from your buying data, sir, we have bought, this is very consented data. I don't know name companies, they're global companies. I have used them because when I was in London, I was covered by GDPR, which is very similar. Yeah. So large data suppliers, they say, yeah, we have the data consent. But the fact is, if you have taken a consent for an activity A, that automatically does not qualify the customer for activity B. Therefore, do not be fooled by data brokers and seek explicit consent. Cross-border, one of the examples for LinkedIn is cross-border. They use data and they sold it outside. I'm sure some of those people who are sitting in the audience are using Indian data to marketers outside of India. You can't do that. It's illegal. Earlier, it was only limited to the banking data or the financial data. Now it is limited to every data. So if you are collecting Indian data and sending it to your customers outside, sorry, you can be liable for huge penalty. Next thing is very, very important. Cookies are going to be dead. Yeah. Google is coming up. It has been, postponing it for 2023, 24, 25. By 2026, cookies will be dead. Yeah. So all your third-party stuff which you're trying to collect, it will all be gone. And I'll show you really what happens in Europe, what you can't see sitting in India, but what happens in Europe. I'll show you the next slide. Yeah. So you have to move from the third-party data to first-party data collection and to zero-party data collection. Now we don't have time, so I don't want to get into detail of what is first-party data collection, what is zero-party data collection. But remember, those are things you're going to do. So your website guys who are sitting there collecting website, pressing cookies, that all has to change completely. Today, what happens? You go to a website, you click, and what happens? It says, we have cookie enabled. You accept all, you reject all. But look at, and I'm giving you an example of an Indian company, indianexpress.com. When you access their website in India, You can access it right now, what I'm saying, and find out what is the cookie alert they are giving compared to what is the cookie alert they give you in Europe. Can you see my, hope you can see my video. So this is the first page which will come. Then it will give you all the details. Store or access information, use limited data to select advertising, create profiles for personalized advertising, use profiles to select personalized advertising, and you have the option to select, right? So you can say yes, you can say no, you can slide and consent for all this. Now they don't do, Indian Express doesn't do it in India, because in India there is no law. But you cannot escape this. This is what happens when you click Indian Express from your laptop or your computer in Europe, right? Because it is GDPR compliant. Can you see how much it is? I don't go into detail. Look at another YouTube. What YouTube does here, when you go to YouTube today in India, you just open YouTube. See what happens. Before you continue to YouTube, you have to see all this. You have to reject. See how much they are doing. It personalized set. You can go to the history. You can go and this is what is given to you upfront. So if I can use the Hindi word, chori chupe nahi hai. Everything is in your hands. You will have to be power of saying yes or no. You means your customers. And therefore, it is very important that you provide them an option to opt in or opt out of any cookie tracking. Okay. So let's look at what is the next thing happening. Therefore, what you should do. So guys who are sitting here and who are handling marketing, do 6 things. Audit your touch points. Invest in first party data, zero party data. We can explain that if there was time, we would have gone into that. Design a consent architecture. When you're creating customer journey, identify as part of the customer journey at what points you are taking consent. Yeah, that's a very, very important thing. There are user consent platforms, right? Something which Ajay talks about. Ajay talks about consent manager, right? So there are consent management platforms. There are 3 or 4 very, very well reputed, but I will not take their names in public. I can tell you separately who are those, because I don't want to be called, yeah, I'm favoring someone. But there are 4 or 5 very, very globally renowned user content management platforms. You fix your BARTech. The BARTech is a problem. Know that your engine which is sending emails, your stuff which is doing webinars, emails, etc., it's all a problem area. Fix it. Partner with legal and IT early. Understand, like Ajay explained, understand what are the illegal. Understand with IT where the data is stored. Is your data stored properly? Is there a breach? Because if the breach happens, not only IT is going to be responsible, but you will also be held responsible. And perform training of your marketing teams. Hire someone experts. Hire people who know about it. Hire teams to train your teams and to train your vendors. Right? So let me give you a very quick use case. What is good, what is bad, what is illegal? Yeah. So if you do a double opt-in of lead generation, right? That's good. That's a good practice. You do consent-driven ABM. Yeah, we want to run ABM. So we want to do a profiling of your CEO. Can you please give me consent? He said, yes, fine. You do that. Good, fantastic. First party data, as I said, contextual targeting. Now, contextual targeting is very, very different from normal advertising. Now, you target your ads not on the basis of the user preferences, but on the basis of the media he's consuming. So what are the context? So if there is a magazine or data center and you want to talk about a server technology, that is where you advertise. That is contextual advertising. You cannot directly send an email to the data center head saying that we have a new server technology coming in, right? Similarly, what is bad? Ambiguous consent and event registration. So you did a registration for the event, and then now you say I can send him some 25 other emails also, right? That is ambiguous thing. You're not giving him clear picture of how you're collecting the data, how you're going to use it. You're collecting too much. Trust me, we Indians love to collect, whether it is newspapers or your shopping bags or data. We love to collect. We love to over collect. Don't do that. That's a bad practice. But what is illegal? Unsolicited mails, cold calls, unsolicited emails, unsolicited WhatsApp, hidden tracking, putting a UTM, failure to honor data deletion request. that falls under 250 crore, yeah? Failure to honor data deletion request. So please be careful. Okay, so very quickly, in your organization, who owns the data privacy? Legal, marketing, agency, or nobody? I'm not surprised. I did find very many answers. Okay. One person said marketing, two, three marketing. What about? I want to know, yeah, guys. There's some 50 odd people sitting in the webinar. I want to know your answer because that is going to define yourself. If you don't want to answer me, answer to yourself. And I know the answer. A lot of organization. Yeah, now I can see. No one right now. Correct. Now you got it. And no, we are not holding it for you. This is a natural practice. Our agency or our vendors. Very true. Yeah, that's where the problem lies. You don't even know who is handling your data, right? That's a big problem. Okay, so now what are the do's and the don'ts? Yeah, what are the don'ts of the digital? Um, I have to stop. How do I stop it? Yeah. Now, what are the don'ts? Very quickly, the last two slides. Uh, I mean, what is it that you will do which will get you fined? Okay. Auto subscribe after webinar. So after a webinar has happened, you are auto subscribed to newsletters. So you can't do that after the law is passed. And it's going to be happening very, very soon. It is already passed. It is going to be promulgated and implemented. Pre-ticked consent boxes. I told you about that. What Airtel did to me just now is wrong. Don't do that. Buy third-party data. Don't go to, I don't want to name the company, say I want to buy data. No. Retargeting. So if you used him for something else, now you're using him for something else. Don't do that. You can't retarget the person without his explicit opt-in. And as I said, don't use the scraped LinkedIn data. So how your campaigns are going to change? This is the last slide, guys. So don't worry. The last slide. How your campaigns are going to change under DPDP. First of all, you will get consent-driven data collection. Right? Very, very self-explanatory. I don't need to explain. Yeah. Transparency in communication. Tell them, why do you need the data? What is it that you're going to use for? And how do you going to, end the data, kill the data? Don't store it. Yeah, it's not your grandmother's thing where you store, oh, I collected this thing in 1920. No, please, every data which comes into your organization should have an end life, and you should kill it. You should delete files permanently. They reach to IT, because under the DPDP Act, this is also being provisioned where you cannot keep the old data for a fairly long time. Current situation is 2 to 3 years, depending on the data requirement. Data minimization and quality. As I said, just don't hold too much of data. Sab kuch le lo. Don't do that. It has safeguards for minors. I know in B2B it is not relevant, but in B2C it is really, really relevant. Very, 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 very critical, and it can bring you to that highest level of fine. Data localization. Data collected in India, sending it to Germany, wrong. Data collected in Germany, bringing it to India for a campaign to be run in India and Germany, wrong. Unless you have an explicit approval and consent and legal okay. In India, you cannot take the banking data outside of India. Yeah. So that's an important thing. Data security and breach notifications. So if any breach happens, you have to immediately inform the data principals. You have to inform your customer. There has been a data breach and there's likely a breach happening. So please, we are doing the best possible. If you want to change your password, if you want to do this, please, you can do that, right? So this is how your campaigns will change. We can talk about it in length, but this is just the tip of the iceberg, just to make you interested and make you understand what's going to happen. But don't think that DPDP is going to be, it's going to be what you call a problem for you, and how will you now run your data? Don't worry about all that stuff. Things will change. Things will become easier for you. things will become much better, and what B2B will be a better marketing, right? I will hand over back to Sandeepan for any questions. I know there are many.
So Mridul, I'm just thinking about it, that the way people are using data and about the act which you and Ajay was talking about. And I just realized recently, we've had the election, and one of the most prominent usage of the data has been used by the political parties to send messages to promote or asking people to participate. Will they be under the preview of this law if this is get passed and this is get implemented? That is one. And then the question coming from Ayush Krishnatriya, that according to this, once this comes in force, how does database mining tool like Zoom Info or Lucia
Right,
will
right.
have on us?
So let me first answer Ayush's question, because that is simple. And I also touched upon it. Data scraping, mining. I did not name these people, but yes, you'll have to be extremely careful. Even they will have to give you the consented piece, that they have the consent for data. You cannot just pull and mine the data. So usually what is happening globally, you get Zoom in, I don't know name them, but you get these platforms, get the data, and do your own consenting form, right? So don't depend on them. That's the best practice. So when I talked about good, bad, ugly, so the good or the best practice is use these platforms, pull the data, go to those individual people, take an explicit consent, and then run your campaign. Because trust me, all these people are, when you will talk to your legal guy, they will come up with this question whether the consent has been taken for this explicit purpose. And in 99.9% cases, the answer would be no. So you just can't scrap the data and run your campaign. No, right? Okay. Sandeepa's question, that's a tough one. So this was easy. That's a tough one. So how will political parties use this? I don't have an answer because I'm not a political person.
Anyhow, so let me answer.
Legally speaking, yes, they should not. They should not. They are not allowed to do that. Uh, uh, what is legally possible? I'll tell you. All that NDMA data, disaster management data, emergency response service data, that government has authority to use under all circumstances. But for political purposes, I'll keep my comment.
Now, this is another one, which there are a lot of organizations which just started and they call themselves as the performance marketing agencies. How do they run their campaigns without the violating the DPDP Act? How do I run an ad campaign without violating the?
So yeah, I think that's a question I think which is I think in everybody's mind. Uh, Performance marketing everybody wants to do, yeah. So today, a normal Google advertising, the way you are doing it, your way you are targeting using third-party cookies, you don't do it, Google does it, right? And that is how things move as far as when you do the Google advertising. Now, as I said, when Google will stop third-party cookies by 2026, Google-based advertising will become a very difficult thing to do. What is recommended as part of DPDP is contextual advertising. So things like syndicating of content, things like inbound marketing instead of more of outbound will come into picture. Content will become king. Trust me, content will become the king. You will have to divide new customer journeys where content will become more important, because that will be your attraction point, not his email ID and phone number, because that you cannot do, right? I have another question, supplementary from Ayush. No, Ayush, the onus lies on you. If you're buying the data, first of all, you should not. And if you are doing that, the onus of getting the consent lies in you, because the government or the authorities are going to ask you whether you have a consent, and it is a demonstrable consent. So you will be asked to show whether your customer has explicitly given his consent. So those platforms do not have the onus. You have the onus.
Okay, now Ajay, I want to ask this question to you because I think Mridul has showed some in the big brand who have been fined. We have to pay penalty. Now they're using data in millions, but there are organizations who may be using a data maybe around 5,000 to 10,000, and they may not able to because this law is very complicated and this is a very new law. They may not able to afford a lawyer who can defend them. how do they work to in this environment of a new environment of when does this become and this law is enacted?
So, Sandeepan, I think there would be only two things which can be considered, which can be kept in place to, to cover yourself, or you can be under the DPDP Act, so that you don't contravene any provision. So, number one, as Mridul said, consent. There has to be an explicit consent. It has to be in writing. Secondly, the data must be processed only for that specific purpose. If the organization doesn't go beyond that purpose, I think you are sorted.
Great.
Right.
I think we are just run short of time. I'd like to thank everybody who have joined us. I hope this session would have helped you to get a little clearer view about how this act could impact your businesses. If you have any questions, you can always email it to us. And if you want to consult and you have any in-depth session for you or your team, do let us know. So both Mridul and Ajay are available so that they can, you can always take their support or help on that. Okay, so with that, I'd like to thank everyone for. Okay, Pranav has a question. Pranav, can you just take? We will take this last question.
What is the question?
I don't know. We are just waiting for him because he
Look,
says,
if you
please
call
take
someone
this.
to get a consent, is it okay to do so legally post the active?
I
Ajay, you want
don't-
to take this question?
Yeah.
His question is, if you call someone to seek consent, is that allowed?
Yes. Secondly, consent has to be in writing. If I am calling someone and he provide his consent over a phone, that is not a consent. It has to be in writing. It has to be in black and white. He has to write me a mail. That is the consent. Because
Which is
anything which can't be proved at a later date is, it is in the air. It has to be in writing.
so if
So,
I have to invite a person for a for a conference or for an event or for a program, I have to send first an email. Okay, I'm going to send an invitation. Is it okay for me to send? And if he yes said yes, then I send the formal invitation or formal communication. Am I correct?
yes,
Great. I think
with
that's
at least two options for him to opt out.
opt out. Great. I think that's it for today. Thank you,
I think there
everybody,
is
for being here.
another guy was Ayush, you have another hand.
I think we will keep on the
Devinder
more.
Kumar.
So, but
Can,
let's.
can we extend for 2 or more minutes, maybe? Devinder Kumar, put your question in the chat. Okay, I think they have answered. Okay, Sandeepan, you
Great.
can.
Thank you very much for joining us. There's a survey. Post this. Please send your feedback on this so that we can come back with something better and we can respond to you. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Mridul. Thanks, Ajay.
Thank you.